In the bitter cold of December 1989, while much of the world was preparing for Christmas, Romania was preparing for revolution. It was a time of deep hunger, fear, and desperation. After 24 years of iron-fisted rule, the Romanian people had had enough. What followed was one of the most dramatic and violent revolutions in Eastern Europe. A people's revolt that led to the fall and execution of dictator Nicolae Ceaușescu. This is not just the story of a tyrant's downfall, but of a nation's rebirth from the ashes of communism. Nicolae Ceaușescu rose to power in 1965, taking over leadership of the Romanian Communist Party after the death of Gheorghe Gheorghiu Dej. At first, many Romanians welcomed him. He publicly distanced himself from the Soviet Union, even refusing to participate in the 1968 Warsaw Pact invasion of Czechoslovakia, which gained him Western approval and aid. But behind the populist facade, Ceaușescu was building a regime rooted in surveillance, paranoia, and total control. Inspired by visits to China and North Korea in the early 1970s, he developed a cult of personality so extreme that Romanians were required to celebrate his birthday like a national holiday. He declared himself the genius of the Carpathians, and his wife, Elena Ceaușescu, a chemical engineer by training, was elevated to Mother of the Nation and appointed to top government positions, despite her scientific credentials being largely fabricated. Under Ceaușescu's rule, the Securitate, Romania's secret police, became one of the most feared institutions in the world. With over 11,000 officers and nearly 500,000 informants, they created a nation where 1 in every 30 citizens was spying on their neighbors, co-workers, and even family. One chilling account comes from a Romanian dissident, Doina Cornea, who was placed under house arrest for writing letters to Radio Free Europe. She was denied access to medical care for her son, monitored 24/7, and even had food withheld. Despite Romania's natural resources, particularly oil, natural gas, and fertile agricultural land, the economy was mismanaged into the ground. In the 1970s, Ceaușescu borrowed heavily from Western creditors, hoping to industrialize Romania rapidly. By the early 1980s, the country owed over $10 billion. Instead of restructuring or negotiating, Ceaușescu ordered that the debt be paid off as quickly as possible. To achieve this, exports were increased and domestic consumption was slashed. Food, heating, electricity, and gasoline were rationed to extreme levels. Citizens remember waiting in hours-long queues for basic staples, often returning home empty-handed. In winter, homes had no heat, and electricity was limited to 2 to 3 hours a day. Hospitals lacked medicine, and newborn babies often died from cold-related illnesses. Ceaușescu banned abortion and contraception to increase the population, but without proper healthcare or resources, this led to thousands of abandoned children in orphanages, many of whom were later discovered living in appalling conditions, malnourished, abused, and untreated. As Romanians starved, Ceaușescu ordered the construction of the Palace of the Parliament, the second largest administrative building in the world after the Pentagon. Covering 3.9 million square feet, it includes over 1,100 rooms, marble staircases, and massive chandeliers. To build it, Ceaușescu demolished 7 square kilometers of Bucharest's historic center, displacing over 40,000 residents and destroying churches, monasteries, and synagogues. The revolution began in Timișoara, a city in western Romania, on December 16, 1989. The government tried to evict Pastor Laszlo Tokes, an ethnic Hungarian critic of the regime. When parishioners and neighbors formed a human chain around his apartment to prevent his removal, the protest grew. Securitate forces opened fire on the demonstrators. Dozens were killed, but their deaths ignited a national rebellion. Within days, the the protests spread to other cities. Romania's state-controlled media tried to suppress news of the uprising, but word spread fast through whispers, underground radio, and eventually live television. On December 21st, Ceaușescu attempted to deliver a speech from the balcony of the Communist Party headquarters in Bucharest, in front of a crowd of 80,000 people. Midway through, boos erupted, an unthinkable act just days earlier. The TV broadcast was abruptly cut, and chaos ensued. The regime had lost its grip. Nicolae, alongside his wife, immediately went to the roof of their palace from where they escaped via a helicopter. By December 22nd, even the army had turned. Soldiers joined protesters and tanks were seen rolling into Bucharest in support of the people. Ceaușescu and Elena fled in a helicopter but were forced to land at a town after being intercepted by a radio. They were captured by the military and taken to a base in Târgoviște. On December 25th, the Ceaușescus were subjected to a 90-minute military tribunal. The charges included genocide, subversion of state power, and destruction of the national economy. They were both sentenced to death and executed by firing squad minutes later. The execution was filmed and broadcast on national TV, symbolizing the end of an era. The revolution left over 1,100 dead and thousands injured. Romania was the only Eastern Bloc country to violently overthrow its regime and to execute its leader. Transition to democracy was messy. The early 1990s saw riots, corruption, and power struggles, but slowly institutions strengthened. Romania joined NATO in 2004 and the European Union in 2007. Today, Romania is classified as a semi-consolidated democracy by Freedom House, with a score of 75 out of 100 in global freedom. Elections are competitive and civil liberties are largely respected, though corruption and media control remain concerns. Economically, Romania has made impressive gains. From a GDP per capita of $1,700 in 2000, the country has grown to nearly $17,000 in 2024, adjusted for purchasing power parity. IT, car manufacturing, and agriculture are key drivers of the economy. However, Romania still battles brain drain, with millions of Romanians working abroad in search of better wages. 30% of the population lives in rural poverty, and access to quality education and healthcare remains uneven. The story of Romania's revolution is a reminder that even the most oppressive regimes can fall when the people refuse to remain silent. Foreign powers or elite conspiracies didn't orchestrate Ceaușescu's downfall. It was sparked by ordinary citizens who had suffered too long. Romania still carries the scars of its past, but its people have reclaimed their voice, their dignity, and their future. From the cold streets of Bucharest in 1989 to the growing democracy of today, Romania's journey remains a testament to the enduring power of resistance.